The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100 this week, I'm not going to lie, you look pretty good. We're starting with higher time frames on the SPY, and you can see here on the weekly chart. I mean, it's incredible. You're mounting previous highs, you're getting continuation, and the weekly candle you just put in might have been your best weekly candle in 5-6 months, potentially, maybe since January and February. Genuinely, one of your best candles you put in. You go into QQQ, Nasdaq, and I think this is where things get the most exciting because you're clear as day breaking out here. You go to something like the 4 hour, you can see how we have this little pennant down here. We reversed, massive breakout, good volume. You look extremely strong into the end of the year right now. There's no question about it. Now, I think there is one area here that is the biggest opportunity. It's what I'm going to keep highlighting right now. And it's an area that we haven't seen run or break out in a few months. And it's SMH, semiconductors, okay? Semiconductors are not at all-time highs. Now, why is this important? Let me show you what's at all-time highs first, okay? So over the past few weeks of seeing SPY's been at all-time highs for a few, obviously days already, right? I mean, you really broke back out back here. Back late September, you've been just making higher highs and all-time highs, right? QQQ just broke its July highs, for instance, okay? So if I go over ETFs and show you what we're looking at, XLI, okay? Industrials, all-time highs. XLF, financials, have been at all-time highs. XLV, healthcare. You hit all-time highs back here, in August, September, trying to bounce back up, but you've been broken out of your February and, June, July all-time highs, okay? XLC, all-time highs. XLY is, I think, trying to break, or no, XLY has been at all-time highs as well, right? Your two sectors that have not rebroken July highs yet is SMH, semiconductors, XLK, tech. Okay, your tech ETF, your semiconductor ETF. Now, I think tech looks good too. We'll go into that here in a second. But I'm telling you right now, your semiconductors it has to be the main thing you're looking at here. And this week, you broke back above your notorious 256 key level. As long as you're above 256, you're bullish on semis. But if we can break back above 262, I think it's all signs go, right? And we're breaking back up. Now, again, people want to say SMH semis are a bubble. Okay, if you think that, whatever, whatever. Okay, do we think tech is a bubble? I don't know. The biggest tech names out there in the market, Apple, some of the other names, right? I don't know. Do what you gotta do, right? But I can't look at this and not get excited because as XOK breaks out, this is when we had our big run back in June and July when the Nasdaq ran over 1,000 points, 2,000 points. This is the big moment here of why I think continuation is likely to happen over the next few weeks, okay? Now let's approach those names and look at Qs as well. Qs getting in price discovery, you start to really develop room here to, really start to get in that price discovery of getting continuation. You look at futures as well as in Q, the Nasdaq futures, just breaking over their highs as well, again, in price discovery. The last time we got into price discovery was back here, March. We broke March highs back here, May 23rd, roughly you broke, retested, and you shot up from, again, 19,000 all the way into 21.2 thousand. Again, a massive 2,000 point run. Am I saying a 2,000 point run is going to happen here on NQ? I'm not going to be that bold and say it. But in price discovery on the Nasdaq, things tend to get a little wild. So I still think SPY is going to continue running. Don't get me wrong. ES just hit 6,000. You look really good. But my focus is now shifted towards semiconductors and what's happening with tech, right? So we look at NVDA, for instance, right? NVIDIA, we talked a lot about it breaking out of your pennant that you consolidated in from June all the way into October. You broke out, you pushed into 150 all-time highs, right? I don't think you're done here. Just really quickly getting rid of all of our drawings here. As long as you're remaining above this high here at 140, I'm as big of a bull as I could get. And I think NVIDIA wants to continue running because what happens at the end of this, the end of the year here? What has NVIDIA been saying? The Blackwell chip is most likely going into full production and shipping out by the end of this year. That's as bullish as it could possibly get for NVIDIA. Semiconductors as a whole. The second biggest semi out there, AVGO. I've been telling you guys all about this. One of the cleanest charts. Your highs back from June. You're trying to break him out back over 185. I think AVGO is running to $200 in my opinion. Probably further. But again, Broadcom, very, very, very strong. Okay. You have a few outliers in semis that look weak, like ASML AMD. If AMD gets back above 162, it's a long, but until then, I'm not touching it. But you still have big opportunities like Micron. Okay, you still have other names in there, Dell, that are looking better, right? That are trying to pop back out. So I still think there's a lot of big names, QCOM, a few of these others, right? So again, massive opportunities out there, in my opinion, and what I'm looking at here. And I do believe continuation in semi specifically are one of the most interesting areas of the market, because once they get going, it's hard to get them to stop. And then going into XLK and just tech overall in the Mag 7, right? Apple trying to find sellers, but overall still holding up very high. Again, I'm not that big of a bull on Apple, but if you hold above 227, you're going to run back to 232, get back into that price discovery. Amazon is an XLY name, but again, still breaking out as well from a long time consolidation. Breaking over 200, running like crazy. Meta, XLC, a communication name, trying to break back out, trying to keep going. Netflix, running like crazy, all-time highs up here. Microsoft, it hasn't even started running yet. What do you think's going to happen when Microsoft gets going back above 430? I've been talking about this one for a while. It's, again, another one of those names that's been a lagger, but I believe, again, continuation's likely. Google, doing what we thought it would do, right? Inverse head and shoulders, mounted above 168.5, back at 178.5. We're looking to mount 181.5 to push back in all-time highs near 192 and get that $200 push. We've been talking a lot about these names over and over. So, again, it's just like a matter of time until they really start playing out here and until we get that continuation that we've been really looking for. And again, it's what we really want to see overall. Now, the other part here too is what's happening with Dow. What's happening overall with those markets as well. The Dow's been high, right? The Dow was cooling off, but we saw the Dow after Trump got elected went up absurdly almost 2,500 points on the Dow in 2 days, 3 days. 2,500 points in 3 days. The Dow was going berserk. Again, every area of the market is looking hot. IWM, gapping out of our resistance, 226. You held there for basically July through essentially beginning of November. Rejected. IWM's pushing back in all-time highs as well, 244. Mid caps, the momentum is back into those names as well. Again, we've talked a lot about these. Affirm is one of the big ones I like. If Affirm holds back above 46.5, I like it into 51. Above 51, $52, I think Affirm explodes. Giving you an update on names that I mentioned this year already. Upstart, we mentioned down here at $31, $35. You're at $80 now. Robinhood, we mentioned at $14. We mentioned at $18 when we bought. These were also called out in Discord. You're at $31.5. Kava, we mentioned this name at $50, $60. You mounted previous highs. You're at $147. Reddit, another mid cap we mentioned, down here at $52, $53 prior to earnings. You exploded. You're at $134. Again, you're going to have big names. You're going to have continuation on these names, but there's going to be more names that line up as well. And some of those names include Roblox, finally breaking out of this range that you traded in for 2 years. Again, everyone asks you about Roblox in the range, but when you break out, no one wants to talk about it. Your next target's into like $60, $61. Again, what you're looking for. Again, Roblox looks good. Shopify, trying to break back out as well, getting back above your 200 weekly SMA, mounting it, getting above $84. I think Shopify looks hot. It looks good. And towards $100. Looks very good. Continuation seems likely. Seems very, very sustainable and good as well there. So again, there's more names out there that continue to look good, and we're going to continue to cover them. But again, it's important to understand where we're at as a market right now when we look at Qs and what's happening overall. I want you guys to also know, if you don't follow on Twitter, I recommend doing so. I mention this all the time, but I'm doing some try requests on there today. I'll either tell you if you're like why I won't cover your stock, or I'll obviously cover your stock. So again, I have a lot of stocks to obviously start going over, but again, we're doing that on Twitter today. A lot of good breakdowns, things along those lines. But make sure you're tapped in there. Also, too, if you guys are interested in our custom indicators, we have a few that are coming out as well. I just talked to Lux Algo. Again, we have the price action one from Lux Algo, their custom script. You can also do fair value gaps, but I like the premium and discount zones on their time frames. But also, too, our volume indicator is literally my favorite indicator in the game. showing buying versus sellers for scalping. Again, it's literally the best indicator in my opinion. So again, check that one out as well. But again, we have one that's going to be coming out too. That's going to have our 90 MA, 200 SMA, and VWAP, and all those included into one. So you don't have to waste a bunch of spots on your trading view as well. I'm talking to them as well for that. So make sure you're tapped in. The link is down below. Use code OD40 for 40% off as well. So again, you always get those discounts. But again, recap into levels, because this is the biggest thing right now. It's like you're just watching Qs, you're watching continuation. You look so good. I think Nasdaq specifically is what you need to be watching, because you're literally just mounting above that resistance right there. That's all you're doing. Right now, I'd actually ignore the premium zone right now because you're at highs. And I don't think you should be YOLOing into all-time highs. Don't get me wrong. But as a trader, you have to understand what you're doing here. You're mounting above your level. You're holding above previous all-time highs, 21,210. Again, extremely strong. Consolidating above highs is very bullish. Again, showing you a name like this that's done this as far as an equity is something like Amazon. Now, Amazon, you just have to know where the liquidity is. The liquidity here was above $200. So what happened this I think it was a Monday morning or Wednesday morning, right? You got above $200, you mounted all morning, and then you shot up like $10. And I mentioned this in Discord as well. The key level wasn't previous highs. It was your liquidity level there. In my opinion, that's the same thing with Nasdaq here, except it is your previous highs here. And you can see that you're finding all that liquidity now and holding above it right now. And again, above this is smooth sailing. And that's what you're really looking for, is that continuation and momentum. We just got rate cuts again as well. And we have to see that dollar market continue to justify this. We want to see the dollar, and we want to see yields continue back on the downtrend, which again, we haven't really been seeing, but we need to see that in the short term as well to paint that picture also. Again, we saw the dollar kind of bounce back. So far, yields are getting a little bit of a rejection. We want to see more back below the 200 SMA. That's where we're at right now. We want to see TLT bonds getting bullish back over the 200 SMA as well. That's what I'm watching. I'll have stuff going on Twitter, so make sure you're tapped in. The link is down below. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one, traders.